Okay. I did my first YouTube clip. And it was at a week's time, and it was just like a few days back. I got back from work, and that was probably the most tired and worn out I've felt for maybe any time. And then I just can't start. I just got to go to bed. But I wanted to sit down and not just go to sleep, pray a little bit, and read. And then I got this thought: I think I'll make a YouTube. And I thought, well, that'd be like God, get me at my weakest point. And because what does the Bible say? We're weak. His strength is made perfect in the weakness. So, I thought, okay, Lord, I'll just do this YouTube clip. Leah told me I look a little bit dopey. No, that's a point. Can't help that. And so what she wanted me, that's what she got. I'm going to look a bit dopey. Hey, she's beautiful, I'm dopey. The more dopey I look, the better my wife looks. Praise the Lord.
For better or for worse.
Well, how many ministers are you going to see sitting
That's
up
what the vow
so
said.
tired
Better or
in
for
bed?
worse. So
their way through.
we came together in such a quick manner, and she came from New Zealand. I came to Billawheeler to do an apprenticeship, and we met sometime down the road. And when we decided to get married, it was just quick. When we decided to have children, it was just quick. When we finally made the decision together to get into the ministry, it was just quick. Sometimes a long time in preparation. Then we make a decision and it just happens. And that was kind of how the first YouTube clip happened. And I had this suspicion I'm going to do many YouTubes. And maybe just that little one sitting on the bed is just a humble beginning, just to kind of kickstart. And they may not be very professional, and they may not really mean much to some folks, but they'll mean some to my church family and to my friends and anyone who wants to watch them. So this morning I'm going to share my testimony. I'm going to record that second YouTube clip and see how we go. And if I stuff it up and it's all bad, well, I'll do another one, and that'll be the second one. But if this is good, this will be the second one.
That's going to be edited.
No, just as it is. And if I live stream, I want to do a few ones I'll save and then upload, because if you live stream, well, then it's too late. You can't take back the boo-boos. It's all live and it goes on live, so we'll do it that way. And then, of course, it will go on my YouTube channel, and anyone who wants to watch it, you can subscribe to my YouTube, or if I share it on Facebook, you can see it on Facebook, you can watch it and download it on that. And then others that aren't at church can watch it, and other people that subscribe can watch and hear it. But some of you may have heard some of my testimony. I don't know how much detail I'm going to go into. I haven't planned it at all, but I just wanted to share that. I really feel to share it. God wanted me to do it. All my growing years were in Harvey Bay, beautiful place, and I had a really good upbringing. And when some Christians give their testimony, they think, okay, I've got to really testify and show how amazing God is and what a miracle He did and how He changed me and all that. And they really feel that, well, I haven't really got a testimony because I wasn't delivered from all these things. And I didn't live this crazy life. I was almost dead, and then God raised me up from the dead, and here I am as a testimony. That I just lived a normal life, you may think. I haven't got a testimony. But that's not true. The Bible says, Revelations 12:11, we overcome him, Satan, by the blood of the Lamb, the blood of Jesus, and by the word of our testimony. Now, of course, that testimony can mean our testimony of God and what He's done, and the testimony of Jesus, the testimony of His word, the truth of His word, but it's also what God has done in our personal lives. So I'm just going to share that. And I grew up in a good, beautiful home. I didn't know lack. I knew no lack, because my dad always worked hard, and he had people working for him and his contract business, and he just always had money. We didn't live richly, but we lived very well off. We had holidays together, we went to islands, and even at one time we went overseas, just before I started high school. So we weren't rich, we weren't poor, but we were well off family. And I never had to worry about anything. I never knew lack. I didn't know what it felt like to ever run out. So I went in through school into the working life really not having any fear of running out or what if I haven't got enough, because I always grew up with plenty. And it's kind of been that way until this day. Now, of course, when God stretches your vision and you see something before you, or you have other responsibilities, you may worry a bit, but it doesn't last long in me because I grew up with that, so it's not a foundation of weakness in me, it's a strength. But I did have problems. Even though my mother and father are very loving and very good people, they were not Christians per se, even though they believed in God, and they were happy if we went to church, like every once in a while. It could be Easter time we'd go to church or something like that, but it never meant anything to me, and I was never taught the way of Jesus, and there was no one else in my family or in my wife's, my mum or my dad's family that was Christian. So really, when I did come to God eventually, it was like I was the first one. So I've gone up a couple of generations and asked questions, but really, I don't know how far up the line you'd have to go before you met Christians. So really, that's fine to say that my parents weren't Christians, that I didn't grow up in a Christian home, because there were no Christian homes around where, and I know that Dad had a sister, and her husband were Catholics, but I'm not quite sure if they were really, how much Christ-like they were just churchgoers though. Well, so I grew up with a lot of insecurities and a lot of fears. I remember crying out to Mum many times at night time, Mum, because I was afraid, there's some creature under the bed, or I had a bad dream. And I saw this movie one time of this clawed creature climbing up the bricks and looking through the window, and then the curtain opened up, and scary face, and I couldn't get that image out of my mind. I'd go to sleep, or I'd lay in bed under the covers sweating, but I didn't want to peek out in case this creature would come through the window and was going to claw at me or something like that. I'd sometimes step big steps out of bed, because in case something was under there and grabbed me. And just imaginary, but it was very real. What you perceive as real is real to you, even if it's not real to you, it is. And it's not reality, but our imagination is very strong. If that's what we think, that's what we believe, well, that's our reality. And I took that through, into school and into high school. And of course, you put on a facade, but only really those closest to me, my mum more than even my dad, knew those fears. And my sister saw them a little bit, but it was very hidden. But to me, it was very real. And then I went into high school and carried those fears and insecurities. And it's not until now I look back I really understand them at all. And I think I'll get further understanding as I grow up in the Lord and get older. But like for example, when I got an apprenticeship, I'd even take those fears, and some nights I'd prefer having the light on, so I'd sleep with the light on. But if someone was with me, no matter who it was, when we first met and we shared the same place together, I really didn't feel afraid. I always wanted company. I always wanted to be close to someone. I didn't like being alone. I didn't like being in the dark. If I went outside in the dark and someone was next to me, I wouldn't be afraid. If I was alone, I'd be afraid. Doesn't matter how big and strong you are, and how big an impression you can put on the outside appearance. When you're all alone and there's no one with you, sometimes what you really are comes to the surface, and those imaginations come pouring in. And I really did not have much security in my thinking as well, and in my ability to really achieve and be good and be the best, or the best me that I could be in any area that I can remember. Even though I had a lot of natural talent in many different things, and even if I gave a speech at school, everyone would clap, and that really was a little bit confusing because I was terrified, almost wet my pants terrified. I'm telling you, I was so afraid, but when I'd stand up, something would come over me and I'd speak and everyone would be happy. And maybe that was a future gift, future calling or something. But that was all unknown to me. I didn't know anything about that. Sport, if I would train, I'd always be able to run or ride the push bike faster than anyone else, all my friends, and run faster, go further. I used to run all around Harvey Bay and cross-country runs. I was very good, but when I compete, I'd hardly ever get first, because what's up here comes out in your performance. In my mouth would go dry, my stomach would knot up, and I just could not perform like I did when I was practicing. Same as school, I just could not stay in school. I was not a dumb person. But I thought I must be not as smart as the others, and I always struggled. I didn't feel like I could measure up. And then when it come to exam time, my mind just closed up. It was confusing because later when I started my apprenticeship and went to tech college, I'd always get tops of the class, or almost the top. I was always top level academic wise or practical wise, and I thought, well, why now? Why now am I smart now, but I wasn't smart then? Everyone's born smart. There's no dumb people in the world, but it's your perception of yourself, or how much you can tap in, or what's happening in your life. And I think that's really weird. But you know, I didn't like school. I didn't feel as I measured up, and that's how it played out. I was fairly cluey through primary school and did okay, and that's you know, a little bit how it was. But through high school, I really struggled, and the further I got through, my grades got worse, and I was passing, but then there's some subjects I was even failing in the end. And I didn't even want to be there. I went to school afraid, and at the end of school I was happy. I was happy on the weekend, and when the weekend was nearly finished, my stomach would not up. Why? Because I've got to go back to school. I had no logical reason to be that way. My home was secure. My dad was a good man, worked hard, took care of us, never abused. My mum was a good woman, faithful to her family. I never doubted the love of my parents, especially my mum. I always had this feeling that if there was ever danger, my mum would get in the way of danger, between me and danger, and she would sacrifice her life for me. I always knew that. And I still know that. My mum's confided at times and said, you know, I keep my passport valid. When we first went into the ministry and that, you know. And then when we started going to India, she decided I better keep my passport valid in case I've got to go there and rescue my son. And I know she would. She'd find me. That's the sort of mum she is. She's in the 70s, and dad's, you know, almost 80, and they're still in good health. And praise God for that. And they have a sharp mind. I'm very, very blessed with a good heritage and good genes. But where does all these fears come from now? So I went into the workforce, and some of the guys there kind of took a liking for me, and I knew no one except for my uncle. And my flatmate, who I thought was a little strange, and other people thought he was strange as well. And I found out down the road that he was strange. And but he was okay, he was harmless, but just a bit funny, you know? The lights didn't come on properly. Now, this day I don't think of people that way, but that's what I thought at the time. And we're judgmental of him and that. And it was just days when I came to Biloela and I was settling into this own place and learning how to cook and how to walk up the road to KFC, you know, by myself. And that friends started coming around with beer and alcohol, and not just one or two beers, would you like a beer? They called it a box. Start off with half a box or half a carton, then they come with full cartons, and nearly every night there's someone at my door with beers. And they wanted to be my friend and welcome me to this town, and it was it was quite amazing. And in some ways, I think looking back, God was blessing me with friends, but on the other hand, maybe the enemy had a plan to try to get me into some sort of bondage, because I didn't grow up in a family that drank or did any of that. Then I was smoking, and then it turned into drugs, sampling different things and doing different stuff when I got drunk. And then the immorality and everything else that comes with all that. But I didn't really want that sort of life. Even when I went out, even when I was drinking, I was only really interested in one thing. I want to find a woman, I want a wife, and I want to grow up and I want to have kids. That's ladies' dreams, isn't it? But that was kind of my dream. I'd often think about that, when I get married, who would that be? And then I get married, we can be really happy, and then we can have kids. And that's really all I ever have wanted. And of course, you want to be successful, and you want to be someone important and all that, and be good at sport or something. Everyone aspires to be good at something or be known as being someone who's good, famous, but all those things were secondary compared to my desire to have a mate, to have a friend, and be close and intimate with somebody. And that could have been what was driving me, as it drives many people to get with the wrong crowd. Now I developed some good friendships, but it was all around the bottle, or around the dope, and dirty jokes, and then the immorality. And through all that, I was still trying to find a friend, a life friend. And then I get disappointed and disappointed and disappointed. And one time growing up, there's this one young lady, and I'm kind of exposing myself a little bit. My wife knows this. his things, and it's really the old life, but I got really attached emotionally, and then we went out, and it was like just a few days later she dumped me. Called it off, and she couldn't come tell me. She had to get her friend to come and tell me when she's finished with you, it's all over. And she probably wiped her hands of it and get rid of him. He was probably a bit strange. I don't know what she thought, why she thought that. Might have found someone better. I was just young, puppy love. But it broke my heart because I wanted a friend, remember? I wanted to be close to somebody. And so I had, several of those situations. And then, of course, what happens to you, what hurts you, you do to others, and then I'd get close, and someone would get close to me, and then I'd dump them. This went on and on and on. But as it was down the years into my apprenticeship, when my wife came to Billawheeler with the family, I saw her one time when she was down there with her brother playing rugby union. And when I saw her walking past with a couple of her friends and that, I just took a liking to her. Didn't even know her. I thought, that looks good. Then when we went out one night, she was there, and she had this a t-shirt with down under on it. It was upside down, down under. And then of course I had these thoughts about down under, and it wasn't clean thoughts. And she just kept popping up everywhere. And then I found out she worked at the dry cleaner, so I thought, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down that dry cleaner, I'm going to invite her out. And I was pretty bold, but I used to be very bold if I wanted something pretty bad. And a little shy, but if you want it, you've got to deal with all that. I might have went to the gym, tried to pump the muscle up a bit, had a quick beer and a bit of mouth freshener so she couldn't tell, and went down there and popped the question, you want to go out? She told me later, I said something like, do you want to go around? Will you go around with me? When she told me that, I thought, surely I wouldn't have said something like this. She said, you did? You said, you want to go around with me? Anyway, I asked her out, then when we went out that night, our first date, which was like, I think we went to a disco or something, went out for dinner. And she said yes, but with a warning that don't think you're going to get serious or anything like this. And I just want you to know up front, she wasn't being rude, but because I want to travel, I'm going to travel the world, have this goal to travel. So, I'm not going to get serious, but I'm happy to go out. I found out that there was someone else that was wanting to take her out, and she actually dropped him for me. So we both had this problem of dropping people, but for her it was rare. Only happened once, I think. For me it was kind of a regular occurrence. But something about her was different. And I thought to myself, I really think I've found the one I want. Remember, I'm always looking for this mate. So what I did is I started to seek her out. And find out her goings, and that she is one of the people that played on the football team, and that's his sister. So when I said, I like your sister and all that, he thought he's just more, cool. You see, he looked up at me because I was older than him, and I was fit, healthy, and big, and I had a car. So you went home and told Leah about me and all that, and she said, what? Him? I'm not a cradle snatcher. She thought I was a lot younger, so. And she doesn't want to be older than the man. She found out later that I'm actually older than her. She's not cradle snatcher. So then it was all good, Then we went out and, all that sort of thing. And, well, she was not very easy to catch, even though we're going out, because what happened was, we'd go somewhere, go for a drive, Dean would come, because of the mutual friendship there. We'd get back to the home, and I thought, Dean, okay, you could go inside, we'll have a little talk to big sister, get to know her a bit, and she'd be out the car before he was. And he'd be looking. Anyway, I found out later down the road that inside, he was chiding her and saying, why did you come inside? I got out the car quick so that you can stay there with him. And she said, I'm not staying out there with him. So she was very difficult. And then when I finally got up the courage to go around and to the home and ask her out, we went out, I think the first time I was there, we went to go to a disco or something. I went there, and then she wasn't there. She disappeared. She went running up the hallway into the bathroom. Mother went down there, David's here, come out. And this guy's here, And they had no lounge suite. And in the lounge, they're all sitting on the floor. And I come from a family where there's mum and dad and one sister. If I ever go into my home, there's 3 maximum. There's all of them, you know? And they're all sitting down on this couch, all looking up at me, and a big smile, and the mother to be, you know, oh, hello, nice to meet you, and all this, and come and sit down, so, you know.
I think Dad was smiling.
No, and the 2 sisters apparently liked the other person that she was kind of going out with a little bit. So they got a little bit snarly. The dad didn't like me, but the mum took to me, and I was after her, so I really didn't take a lot of notice, even though I could tell it was a bit cold for a little while. As the time went on, you know, they warmed up to me and all that, and then the mother-in-law found out some of my history through a friend, and she was warned very severely that don't, whatever you do, I can't believe you allow your daughter to go out with that David Pearce. Is it really David Pearce? Yes, he's a nice person. Oh no, let me tell you about him. So she listed all the things out about him, what he's like, and gave her a warning. She said, well, he seems like a nice person to me, that doesn't mean no wrong. So that's the sort of mum she has. And so I just kept visiting, just kept going around, not knowing. If I knew this, I might have, maybe not have went through with it. But I found out down the road that she used to say, he's here again. So she'd always head up to the bathroom. I think she's just in there making herself beautiful for me or something. And come out and do her hair and all that. But what actually happened is the mum would always scamper up the hallway into there and tell her, hurry up, get out, he's out there, can't leave him sitting out there one second. But over time, she got used to the idea. You know. But then, tell time happened. Came around and we'd had a couple of drinks. I went out with my friend and not realising that she was actually starting to enjoy my company, and I think, you know, that this going out was okay. And went around with my friend and we'd had a couple of drinks and went out for dinner, and I think she had in her mind that he was coming around earlier and why wasn't I invited out for dinner or something, got her upset. So I went around there and here we were, and she was just really kind of in a bit of a poopy. So I tried to talk nice and kindly and coax her out of it and all that. You know, come on, let's go out and all that sort of stuff. She took a bit of a poopy. And so I said, come on, I didn't sign up for this. I said to my mate, let's get out of here. So I walked out the left. Anyway, she came running out. And big hug and said, I'm sorry for being a, you know, blankety blank. And she wasn't a Christian either at the time, for being such a blank. I said, oh, that's all right. And held me tight, and then we were always together. So maybe just something clicked then that she didn't want to be pursued too much and feel cramped. But when time came that he might walk away, I don't want that either. So, you know, we stuck it out, we got together, and then, of course, his family had different issues down the road, and we finished up, she moved in with me for some time, then we moved into a home, and they had the split to be with Dad. It's just some tough times, and then it was like, I think like a year and a half later, it could have even been a couple of years after that, before we were married. You know, everyone has a life, don't they? And we got some real funny times together and some sad times, but I still carried the baggage. And I did my best to be faithful, and I was faithful. Like I never, you know, physically played up, but the mind games happen. The fears can be there. They might be hidden, and you can be strong and have strong willpower, but it wasn't until God came in and took them away and gave me the power to overcome. So, you know, temptation would come and go. Fears would be there. Didn't like to be alone still. Didn't like to be in the dark. Didn't like to be away from Leah. Insecurities were there. Had to be close to somebody. Well, you know, we started our little family, or married, all that. I just asked one time, she said yes. The surroundings were not good. You know, I didn't do it in a romantic way, not on one knee, didn't have a ring prepared, nothing. I just got the urge to get married one day, just like the YouTube clip the other day. I sat down in bed, you know, I'm going to make a YouTube. It was like, Leah was just starting to make the bed and tidy up the house and all that. I just got an idea, we should get married. I said, I went back in the room, how about we get married? She just laughed. She laughed and laughed and laughed, just the way it all came out, just popped out. And she said yes, and all that. I think I had a hug. Yeah, and she said, that's right, you serious? You really mean it? And she's laughing. And yeah, she was very happy with that. Then we went and picked the ring out and all that sort of stuff. And kind of did things back to front. But we got there eventually. And the journey and the pathway toward God was not seen until years down the road. And I think what I'm going to do is ask different people in this church to get up and you do a testimony. It may go for 5, 10 minutes, 15, 20, maybe in a smaller group. But I think, be strong and be bold if you're willing. And just grab the mic and come up and you share your testimony. It's very strong. And everyone gets encouraged by testimony. And how God starts to interweave through your life. Others, when they hear about it, God gets the glory for it. So, we got married. And the person who did the marriage ceremony was a Christian. His name is called Mike Verka of the Anglican Church. And I grew up always saying I was always an Anglican. Because, if we ever did go to church or Mum ever took me there, because that's what you do at Easter or Christmas, it was at the Anglican Church. So that means I'm Anglican. But I knew nothing about God, knew nothing about Jesus. And before Leah came along, I know quite often that guys at the power station where I worked, when I did my apprenticeship, were always trying to befriend me and win me over. And try to stop me from swearing and stop me from being immoral and telling me to settle down and you've got to, value your job and all that. And all it did is make me angry at them. And of course, there were some things that they had in their life that wasn't perfect. Hello, we're all in that boat, aren't we? But of course, that was the only excuse I needed, so I just thought they were hypocrites. I didn't believe in God anyway, so they're hypocrites. And what I'd do when they would try to correct me or talk to me about God is I'd abuse them. I'd cuss them out, swear at them, cuss them out, and say something really gross, or tell them some gross thing, or something like that. And I didn't dislike them that much, but that side, that Christianity side, them trying to reach me, you're trying to clean me up and look at you, So I didn't have any fear of God, no knowledge of God, and God was not real, so I thought these guys are just using whatever it is, this crutch, as a crutch, to try to be holy and try to, then they want to make me like them and all that, so it just made me angry. You had a belief in God, that's right, yeah, and I actually turned against any thought of God as a child, whatever it might have been there. I remember Mum talking to me once about, right up in the sky, and I was it's one of my earliest memories of childhood, apart from eating Weet-Bix. Mum feeding me Weet-Bix, open your mouth, I sing, and in comes the spoon, Weet-Bix going in. I was sitting on Mum's knee and she's talking to me about God, he's way up there, and I'd just be looking up there, not knowing what she's saying. And that was my mother's attempt at talking to me about God, and that's all I remember, apart from that. So Mum had a belief in God there, but that was about as deep as it went, I think. Except for going to church those few times. So I talked about the Mike Virgo, marriage, Leah. So I really had a belief in evolution then. I studied that and looked at David Attenborough films and read the books about the evolutionists and things like that. And that was getting taught at schools. I started coming into school. So therefore I thought that's where we come from. Got to have some explanation. And researched on that, and that sounded like a good story, and started to believe that, and started to change my mum to thinking about evolution than anyone else. And I remember a couple of Christians coming to our home as we were together in our first home, newlyweds probably, I think, and talking to me about God, and I just rebuked them and took them outside and showed them the stars and how it all came about, probably the Big Bang Theory, and told them about, and they just argued with me, and I just argued and just got up with them and told them that they were crazy, and that was the end of that. Just had no time for any of this Christian stuff. Years went on through my apprenticeship, finished that, went to those and came back to Billawheeler, then back to the power station again, shortly after we were married, and then after many years saw one of my college mates come to work at the power station. He used to play backup singing for Australia Crawl, which is a famous Australian band. And I'm not doing too good at that camera on, I'm not used to YouTube clips. It's all right, no problem, leave it on. Anyone sees this in the future wonders why I'm nervous, stop and start. I'm not normally like this when I talk. I've got to relax in front of the YouTube. Pretend silly things not on. And what was I saying? My friend, yeah. So I remember him as being a really talented musician and all that, but that he was just doped out all the time, drinking and dope. And I had a bit with him and all that, and that's just my friendship. It was just the drinking and the dope. And then he had long hair and just crazy and just bloodshot eyes, but just super talented. He just played the drums and sing and just, I think a lot of those musicians are like that. The gift's there, then the enemy, Satan, comes and takes advantage of that. And then I hadn't seen him all those years, and he was short hair, clean shaven. And he was so happy to see me and embraced me and like this long lost friend, and I was happy to see him as well. I thought, hey, because I really liked this guy. I really admired his talent. Found out that his wife was musical as well, and the whole family was musical, and that really made me excited to know someone like this, and then marry into that and have a whole musical family, and they play all these instruments and they could sing and do whatever. But he could not put a sentence together without God in it somewhere. He couldn't talk unless God was in there. But it didn't mean much to me because people would swear and curse God's name. But it was a little strange. But he's my mate. That's different from other people that weren't really my friend or close friend talking to me about God trying to convert me. I get offended. But I wasn't offended at him because he was not trying to convert me. It was just in his speech. And he tried his best, I think, to witness a little bit, but he was not ashamed to talk about God and bring God into the conversations and things like that. And then we got involved in a network and a business. We started to build together, and then we travelled out of town sometimes and went to a conference to the Gold Coast, to the Sheraton Mirage. And they invited us. It was like over the weekend. The last conference meeting was on the Saturday night, and then they said the next morning is going to be a fellowship. And they said fellowship. And I said they're continuing tomorrow. That's what it is. The leaders are going to be at this fellowship. Whatever that meant, never heard of the name. They said it sounds like church. I said, no, it's fellowship. It's all the leaders. They're coming together and they're having another meeting. And we got there and she says, I told you, because clapping and everything and singing and all that. We must have got there a bit late, and she said this, so it's church. And this lady got up after the singing was finished. She gave a testimony. She was really emotional, crying a lot. And Leah said she was a little bit weird because she's so emotional, some problems. But she was just so touched by God in her life that she was just crying. She really couldn't share without crying. And this other got up that I already knew, not personally, but just of his story, and I was very excited about that because he was. If you're too hot, you can turn those off, no problem. He was sharing his story, did it really tough, and found God in a very extreme way through being in an incurable disease, a terminal that God healed him of down the road in the hospital bed, and one of his Christian friends was nagging him about, you got to give your life to Jesus and all this, and he was testifying about that, and he finally, to shut this nag up, I will read the Bible that he's telling me to read, and I'll disprove all this. It's just a theory and all lies, and then get him off my back. And he read the Bible, and Jesus made himself known to him, and he testified about how he came to Jesus. So that really touched my heart. I thought, wow, that's really, really something real about that. And then he got raised up and he got healed. And then this other guy got up who was also in the network business, and he was a business person, and he was invited. I think he might have been a minister. And he had a whiteboard and an easel, and he was sharing this gospel message about Jesus and about God, and he drew this cross on this board, and he put a holy God on one side and a sinful man on the other side, and about when men sinned and fell from the holy God, that there was a separation, and because of the men's sins, and probably listed some of them out, I don't remember the message, how it went exactly, he was not able to get to God because of the sinfulness. God's holy. When men sinned, God had to take the presence away, and there was like a gap, a big rift. But when Jesus came and died on the cross and poured out his lifeblood and suffered in man's place, as a man, God became a man, came inside the womb of the Virgin and was birthed into the world as a man, then died of the death of a sinner, though he hadn't sinned, to take man's sins and sicknesses and all that grief. That man Jesus could stretch out his hand to the sinful man, who at that time I started to identify myself with because of what this preacher was saying. Jesus on the cross could take one hand, because he was a man, and he loved me and had compassion for me because he died for my sins. He would hold my hand. And because he's holy, he held the hand of a holy God with this hand, and he's the bridge. And Jesus, because of his sacrifice, could take my sinful hand and make me clean and present me to the Holy Father as a substitute for my sins. Well, the Spirit of God was at work, because the tears were starting to come as I was hearing his testimony. And as I was hearing this gospel. And all the things leading up to it, my friend, you know, his change of life and what made him so different. He was all clean now. He'd obviously come to Jesus, you know. And different things happening. I used to breed budgies. And, you know, I had a natural talent. You know, nearly everything I've ever done, God, I think, has given me an understanding and a gift, and I became even good at that, but never the best. Why could I never be the best? You don't believe it, you never get there. Always a belief. Get so far up, and then just started to get good, and I did win the first prize in Queensland at this budgie championship for this normal series. Normal means, you know, sort of the natural form of a budgie. And then I gave it up, you know. And we're having a family and all that, so there's different reasons for it, but could have probably went on because I was taught and I got the eye for it and the understanding of what to look for and how to breed and to get what you need. But that fell away as well. It's just another life experience. But this guy that took me under his wing and helped me, his wife is someone we all know, and she was behind the scenes praying. And I've never met a woman like this before. There's something special about that woman. She would smile so big and so kind, and give me this big hug, and how are you now? She'd ask me how I'm going with these really caring, concerning eyes. And that was really weird. This person I don't even know. Found out down the road that she's been in prayer and interceding. See, there's no Christians in my family, but God had other people he was using. And my old drug friend that he was using, my wife that he used, even though she may not have been born again, come to Jesus at that time, she knew God, she'd pray, she had God intervene and show himself to her at times when she had troubles growing up and family issues, and God protected her and kept her safe, and the light sometimes that come around her, the peace of God was surrounding her. So she just knew as a child that God is real and I can cry out to him and he's there for me. And we'd even have arguments, and I'd argue with her about the evolution and all that, and she would just be so sweet and say, no, that's not true. God is real, and anyway, you believe in your monkeys, you come from there, I come from God. I don't come from that monkey. I'll get so angry. I had no belief in God. No recollection of it except for sitting on my mum's knee and looking up as a child, and from there something went wrong. Because children are born innocent, aren't they? They come from heaven, but some things stripped that away. I remember being in school, and I learned a swear word and came home and said, F this, don't get this button done up, or something like that, on my pyjamas. Effing thing. My mum was so shocked because they didn't hear that word in my house. Dad might speak to it out in his workplace, but not in home. Mum would up him. So I never heard it. Not until I got to school. So to me, it was just another word. I didn't know what it meant. I brought it home. And I said, what's that you said? So I said it again. Can't get this effing button done up on this thing. She come round to me and scolded me and said, don't you ever let me hear you say that again. Little tears come up, going on my way. That's a bad word, that one. Isn't it? Isn't it, Brian? All words. Even though he probably said it. But not around mum. He's respectful around ladies and all that. So I was brought up in a good fashion like this. But then at school I'd hear the swearing all the time. And this little guy I learned it from swore and cussed continually. This grade 1 and 2. 3-year-old, grade 3, just through those early years of primary school. This guy could not put a sentence together without swearing and cussing and swearing. Maybe he just had a family like that. And he would just constantly lie. And he taught me stories and lies and lies and lies. So I started bringing a few little lies home, a few little stories. Because this little fella befriended me. Well, how that happened? Don't really know. But see, God has a plan for us, doesn't he? But the enemy also has a plan. And somewhere or another, he must have seen that there's some sort of a special plan that this guy's going to be used of God somewhere in a ministry. Because before I ever went to school, I was just a tiny little tot, just like a couple-year-old. I used to visit the little lady next door on the fence line. And she was very old, I remember just vaguely, probably just a few years old. Another one of my early memories. And I remember because she used to give me bickies. So I go there and give my bicky. Anyway, she told my mum I was just a little boy, and I was non-Christian. She must have been a Christian or something, or God just spoke through. She said, you know, when your son grows up, when David grows up, he's going to be a minister. And so she never told a soul. What can you do with something like that? Not Christian yourself. It wasn't until we became born again and got into the ministry and opened this church, and that mum confided in me the whole thing. She just shared her whole heart with me. Let me tell you something that happened when you were young. And she told me the story about how she always had it in her heart, she held it in there, that you're going to be a minister when you grow up. And of course, who was listening at the time? You know, the God of this world was hanging about, and whether he could see a calling or see some sort of anointing or some sort of gift, and then attacks the precious life. We're all precious, but the precious life are those who go and preach the good news with that fivefold ministry life. And that's why many people that are in jail have ministry callings. When they get out of jail, they go and preach somewhere. Or even when they're in jail, if they get saved in jail, then they become preachers, and in jail they become preachers. Why? Because Satan, he can't stop everybody, but if he can stop those called to preach the gospel and not hear it in the first place, he can still keep people in bondage. It's not until we hear, is it? Not until we hear or have someone tell us the truth that we can come to God. So, you know, why do bad things happen to people that may not necessarily be bad? It's a bad devil, isn't he? And he doesn't like us. And the story of Job's a classic. Job was good, even God boasted about Job. And why did he go through everything? And it's easy to say, oh, well, he was afraid. But, I mean, hello? Shouldn't we all maybe get balls all over our bodies if that's all it was? I was afraid. I grew up afraid, terrified. There's got to be more to it. God was happy with Job. He said, look, he's done nothing wrong, hasn't said nothing wrong. Yes, he did some problems deep set, but that came with the fall. Job was righteous in God's eyes. He feared God. And Job was a good man, took care of poor people and was very well respected. And then Satan tested and tried him and just almost destroyed him, but God said he can't take his life. So within 12 months, Bible scholars believe, he was raised up, restored, got a wonderful big family back, bigger than before, twice as much. He's already rich, the richest in the land when he lost his friends and his reputation, and got very sick and went through his trial, but then he got more back afterwards, twice as much. So God's faithful. It's a story about God's faithfulness, but the sinfulness of man, and there's a story and a teaching in it that bad things can't happen to good people. But we should not think if someone's got something bad happen to them or happened to their child or they had this accident that, they must have sinned terribly. It could be a sin, could be an open door, but how do we know all the reasons? So we must have an open mind and not be judges and think, that's happening because they must have sinned then. So back to the story, I'm hearing this message, and I'm seeing this picture. I've got my wife. I've got all these things that are happening in my life. I've heard about God. I've heard about Jesus. And my friend here won't shut up about God. I'm hearing this preacher talk about God. And all of a sudden God's in my face. And these tears are coming down. And it's like, at the time there was none of these DVDs or these big, download wasn't a big term, but it was like a download came. And understanding that God is real. Jesus is real. Jesus died for me. I'm a sinner. I'm headed for hell. I've got no hope. I'm lost. All I've ever done is, attack his children and curse them out or laugh at them or mock them and use God's name as a swear word. That's the only purpose it had for me. But there's this Jesus that's willing to forgive me. So I was really, really very touched by that I could be forgiven. But the preacher went on and kept talking. And then he said, if anyone wants to come up and pray, I'll pray with you. I wanted to do it. It was a wonderful offer. But my whole life is playing out. It's like a bit hard to explain, but in just moments, this must have took just moments, but I had a decision to make. It was massive. I haven't been brought up this way. So what's my parents going to think? Specifically my dad, what's he going to think about this? What about my friends? I'm going to have to change. I can't be the way I was. I have to have a new life now. I was presented with all this. I wanted to do it. But I'm set with a choice that everything's going to change. You're going to have to step in and make a change today. And I couldn't budge, even though the tears were coming and my heart was, pounding. And it was just me and God. My old drug friend was back there, the one that's got cleaned up. A new friend from the network business was here who I respected greatly. And I didn't really know that he was a Christian, but obviously a nice person. I liked him. He put his hand on my shoulder and whispered in my ear and says, "Hey Dave, don't let fear stop you doing what you know you have to do." And my feet unlocked. So I just walked, just walked. It's like I was walked, but almost carried to the front myself. I didn't care what anyone thought. It was just me and God. I was loose from that. I thought, I want this. So I got to the front to pray, and he's going to pray for us. And then my wife was there. She's crying, and we held hands. And then these people were getting touched everywhere, and they all came out in this little gathering. Some of these ones were in our business. We encouraged to try to get to this conference. And they came along well because they kind of liked us, so they'll go where they go. Next minute, we've got these new Christians. And they said afterwards that you're a Christian, you're born again, and here's some stuff that you can take. And so we just got so happy. She had some understanding of God. I still had nothing except that Jesus came and died in my place. And that God, wherever he is, accepts me. So I just had that faith that now I'm okay. And that assurance came because I was cleansed and so much peace. So we got in the car to drive back to my mum and dad on the way back to Biddlewheeler to break the journey up. And Leah was so excited because we laughed pretty well all the way and giggled. This is awesome. This is just awesome. We just had such a good time. She may have understood some of what happened because she had, some understanding. I had none, but I was just happy. I was just happy I wasn't going to go to hell. And that I was now born again Christian. Leah ran in before me into my mum and dad's place and said, "Guess what we did? We just got born again." Dad must have knew what that term meant. Her dad said, "Who's that with? Which bunch is this?" So she said, "Oh, I think it was this bunch." He said, "Well, you better be careful. You better be careful of that bunch. Let me tell you." So that was a bit of a wet blanket. I was not excited about it. We better be careful who we share this with, it's dangerous. We're just happy. Happy. I think it was the next day we drove back up to Biddlewheeler, straight around to Leah's mum's place. Guess what we did? We got born again. What's that? Oh, we just gave our heart to God and Jesus and all this. Oh, that's nice, dear. In a way that, you'll get over it. Must be another phase they're going through, And that was another wet blanket. Wet blanket, after wet blanket, after wet blanket, after wet blanket. My old drug mate came around one day and says, "Hey, look, you're a Christian now. You ought to have a Bible." "Yes?" "Oh, yeah." So he helped me, get a Bible. Then he said, "You ought to go to church too." "I should." "Yeah, if you're a Christian now, you go to church." "All right." He said, "You can come with us." So, went to church with them, or we drove and met them there. They were on the guitar playing and all that. And you know what I felt when I went to church that first time? Acceptance. No fear. Love, and the pastors were like, maybe Keith and Edna, they were our first pastors. They might have been like late 50s or 60 or early 60s even, Beautiful. Just what we needed, And I started to get a hunger and thirst for church, and wanted to go back to church again. And then if it was prayer, I'd go and pray. Didn't know anything, was just happy just to be around these people. And this Bible, I started to read the Bible because Ian said I've got to read the Bible. And so I've been looking through the scriptures, and of course it was also new to me. Some things I could understand, but I was really drawn to Proverbs because I thought that'll make you wise, and I thought I need to be wise, so I need to learn that. And somehow or another I was drawn to Revelation, and I started reading that. I thought, that's interesting. So I'd always have these questions. Probably pick the two books that had provoked a lot of questions, Proverbs and Revelation. So every day I'd have more questions. I'd come home from work, or if it was a weekend, sometimes more than once a day, I'd tell Leah, "I'm going around to see the pastor. I'm going around to see Keith." I reckon after a while he started looking out the window waiting for the car to come down. And she is trying to talk me out of it quite a number of times. Don't leave him alone, you've just been around. Just wait, but I wouldn't listen. I was always an eager beaver then, I'm an eager beaver now, I'll be an eager beaver. She's always been a bit of a tortoise. And tortoises are made by God and they're beautiful creatures. Honestly, they are. They walk slow for a reason. Yeah, and racehorses are built for a reason. They were gold too, but a tortoise and a racehorse and a tortoise go well together. And she's not a tortoise, but you know what I'm saying? She's slow to make a decision. Just hang on a minute, think about this, don't rush. And she does nothing for a week later, just sirrah. I think, what are we doing now? I don't know, just leave me alone, let me think about it. How long do you need to think? Sort of thought when I asked you last week. Well, think then. So I'll sit there and look at it. Well, what are you looking at? Well, what are we doing? I don't know yet, but I have to think about it. So I don't need to think, I need to get the urge. If I get the urge, I'll do a YouTube clip. Yeah. But that's good different and that's all good, we get along good. So this went on and on and on, and I started to learn bit by bit by bit. See, because of my hungry heart, it'll draw that out of the pastor. And that's how I am to this day. That's how you can be. You can just have your hunger, you'll form questions. And so if you're watching, not here today and watching this YouTube clip, well, this is your first time to my second YouTube clip ever, God bless you, welcome. They're going to get better, I promise. But please hit like if you like me. If you don't, hit thumbs down. No problem, I love you still. If you say something nasty to me on YouTube, on Facebook, I love you still. But if it's rude, I'll block you. I know my friends looking at that, and my wife looking at that, but I'm up for a good debate if need be, and whatever. Praise God, amen. Hungry, my wife's helping me here now. Hungry for God, and I think that's probably the one ingredient. And I'll start to wrap up. My testimony's just gone on and on from there, and the ministry call came, and it took Leah a while to come around to that. That took a while. But that's fine, because I needed probably more time to process and get prayed up and think a bit more clearly. And she chewed me out that bad one time when I asked her, don't you think I'm ever going to be no pastor's wife? And she pulled that one on me. And she gave me the big list, I'm not a doormat, I'm not going to sit up there just take up the offering and just give announcements. Because she thought pastors are old anyway. We're not, I'm not going to be one of them. She thought pastors had to be old, they had to just sit still, wait till they're asked to do the announcements and carry their offering bucket out, and sit back down. Edna was sweet, but she didn't do too much, she didn't want to. But she'd often get a word of knowledge and get up and, if someone's got this, she'd feel a pain and she'd say, look, I feel someone's got a real pain here, I want to pray for him. And someone would say, oh yeah, that's me. So she was operating in the gift of word of knowledge and words of wisdom sometimes, and Keith was more words of knowledge and words of wisdom and that, and prophecy. Just we had the right people, hey, God put it in our life at that time to encourage us and to help us along the way for spiritual hunger. But with her, the decisions were a little slow. But once she's made the choice and the decision, you don't need to talk and discuss anymore. Yeah, once she knew it was God, and she got that upset one time about it all. And I think she thought that, I'll shut him up. If this is God, I'm going to hear from God. And I'm not coming out of that room until I hear from God. She had 3 questions I'm going to ask God. Dish and dish and dish. So there, and I said, okay. She said, I'm going into the room, right? Don't annoy me. I'm not coming out till I've heard from God about what he said. So she went in there and closed and locked the door. So I'm outside thinking, how long is this going to be? I'm hoping she'll be out shortly, because remember, I'm waiting for a decision. How are we going to go and do this ministry thing? I didn't know what it was like to be a pastor. Never been a pastor before. Been to no college, no seminary, nothing. Just felt the ministry call. Just God wants you to be a minister. And yeah, others even telling us how you'll be. Yeah, just the gift was making the way through. And so I don't know, must have been potting around doing something, just thinking the time would go by so I could wait to hear what this decision is. And she's just in there, and she came out, the door came open. Big smile from ear to ear, face glowing, literally. And I said, oh, what are you doing coming out of the room so fast? She said, I heard from God. Let me tell you what it is. I'll tell you. Anyway, even that probably took a while. Just hang on a minute. I'll get it. Sit down. Probably had to make a cuppa. I'm waiting. Out it comes. So let me tell you what he said. This is the first question. This is what he said. Second question. This is what he said. Third question. This is what he said. Never struggled with this since. So she's good for me. Sometimes I'll run off and think, oh, hang on a minute. That might have been a bit of a boo-boo. I'll go back and try this direction. Whereas the steering is that the choices are better. I can get myself a little bit more aligned, and then she comes along, and then we're a great team together. Hey, and that's opposites attract, and it's really it is true.
So obviously God said yes.
God said yes, but you know, even to this day, you know, and I don't struggle with it so much as I did. I can still be impatient. It's a natural weakness I have, but really I'm becoming quite patient, and God can turn a weakness around into a strength. Still some areas I'm working on, and we're always going to be a work in process, especially all in this flesh. But even through eternity, we'll be developing our strengths and becoming more like God and learning about Him. But on earth, we have struggles in our flesh nature, in our soul, our thinking. You know, we need to get the mind renewed, don't we? And our life on earth is difficult as a Christian. But God sometimes puts us with who we think we're not compatible with, but we actually are, because where she's weak, her weakness is actually I'm strong. And she leans on me for that strength. And where she's strong, I'm weak and I lean on her. So we put the strengths together, we become a team. But if I look at her weaknesses and get annoyed by it, well then now it's the enemy can come and exploit it and pull us apart. She sees my weakness and focuses on that. So, you know, when you go out with someone, you focus on their strengths, don't you, when you see them for the first time. If it's a guy, it might be, you know, she might be a happy lady, or got good looks that you like or attracted to or something like that. And you don't look at anything else. Doesn't matter what you believe, doesn't matter what her mum's like. Doesn't matter what the background is. Makes no difference. I like this one. She's the one I like. So you go after it. Why? You just got those things, those attributes that you like. That's what I want. That's what we like at the restaurant, don't we? We go to the restaurant, have a look at the menu, and that's what I like. I like the taste of that. Oh, I want this one. Someone might say, oh yeah, it's cooked in this thing. It might not be organic, or you know, might have some pesticide. Don't worry about the pesticide. I'm going for steak tonight. I've got my mind made up. You don't look at the negatives, you look at the positive, what you want. And that's what life's like. It's set before us, and we choose and make the right choices. But down the road, the enemy wants to come and tear apart what God's put together. As the Bible says, what God's put together, let not man separate. And let God continue. And God only can make a union out of two that are so different. And we are living proof. And I'm living proof that a racehorse can be eventually tamed down and start to make some decisions. And you know, my prayer sometimes is just, God, what do you think? You know, I just half an eye open, waiting for Leah to hear from God. Then I say, if she says what I'm thinking, then we're in it. We're going to go for it. Whereas now I can wait sometimes days and weeks and months and forget next minute. Ding, I'll get the answer, and then we can. I'll tell Leah, and God's been working her over, and sometimes not too long or even instantly she'll say, well, it feels good, let's do it. How life can change. How God can develop a person and bring them to the place they need to be. And God can use life circumstances and life situations to do it. There's so much more to the story, but I think that might do. So that's enough for the YouTube audience today. We'll stop that. Goodbye. Till next time.